Vikings who face Wolves on Saturday. We'll also take a trip down memory lane, but in the first hour, we'll be looking back at Liverpool's defeat to Galatasaray in the Champions League.
Gabriel Sala sends in the ball, headed by Osimhen, and then it's turned in, and it's into the back of the net by Lamina, and the former Southampton, Fulham and Wolves player gives Galatasaray the lead after 6 minutes. The corner kick was not dealt with. Brilliant jump by Osimhen to win it in the air, and then reacting first was Lamina.
I'm joined by Redmen TV's Dan Clubb, and we'll also be hearing from Liverpool head coach Arne Slot. And it feels like Everton haven't had a game in ages. It's only been 8 days, but they are back on Saturday with a trip to Arsenal. We'll have an early look ahead to that with Paul Brown for the Paddock Blues podcast. You can also get your calls and messages in too. Call us on 0800 731 9333. Text us on 081333. Start your message with the word Mersey. And you can also text Mersey to our WhatsApp number 08000 321 333. You can tweet us at BBC Mersey Sport or call us 1376. Or you can email me at sportcarlos@bbc.co.uk.
Total Sport. BBC Radio Merseyside.
Thank you for joining me this evening, and thank you, Dan and Paul, for coming into the studio. And Paul was a very late substitute as well, weren't you?
Yeah, super sub, like Daniel Amakachi when he came on the semi-final.
Are you as good as him?
No, nowhere near.
And thank you, Dan. Have you recovered from last night yet?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Just about. I felt like I watched that game 15 times already this season, to be honest. So I'm kind of numb to it all now a little bit. It's just become part of the course watching the Reds these days.
I think from early doors you could tell they weren't going to score a goal, couldn't you?
Yeah, it became pretty apparent. And we actually started the game quite strongly, didn't we? I mean, I don't know whether we started strongly or they started terribly. I'm not quite sure which of those is true. But yeah, when we missed a couple of pretty gilt-edged chances in the opening 10, I thought it's going to be one of these long nights, and it was literally deja vu from first time around in Istanbul, wasn't it, a few months back? So yeah, disappointing one, but I will say this, early doors, I don't think the tie is quite over just yet.
Well, they are lucky they didn't concede any more goals, aren't they?
That's it, yeah. I felt like we got out of there. Listen, if you've offered me a 1-0 deficit, an hour before kick-off, I potentially would have shook your hand at that, and especially given how poor we were on the night, I would have absolutely taken that. So I feel like we got out of there relatively unscathed, given the balance of play, and just given how, again, disappointing I was with our performance. I think that, on the face of it, is probably a 2, maybe even 3 goal advantage to Galatasaray in terms of the balance of play and how the game panned out. So yeah, 1-0 down heading to Anfield, and Liverpool are notoriously bad in first halves of football, and basically we are at half time now. So I imagine we'll go in as pretty strong favourites, even with neutrals, but I'm feeling it's hard to be overly optimistic or overly confident about Liverpool, but yeah, I'm feeling okay about it. Again, it wasn't pretty and it wasn't a nice evening's work, but still we should be okay.
It was better than the first game as well, wasn't it? The first game against Galatasaray.
Yeah, I think he was petty yesterday, though, wasn't he, Mike?
Dreadful, wasn't he?
Oh, really bad.
I mean, it wasn't an easy game to referee, I guess, in that atmosphere, to give him a little bit of leeway on that. And there was a couple of mad situations. Obviously, there was their disallowed goal, which Yilmaz kind of does get involved in and then kind of doesn't. That was a strange one. There's our disallowed goal, which was just a melee of limbs and bodies. Like, it was just nuts in there. So I've got a little bit of sympathy with him. Obviously, we've got a bit of play acting going on for the Galatasaray players as well. I think 7 of their players were walking a tightrope in terms of being suspended for the next leg. So that was another element to all of that. So it wasn't easy, but again, some of the decisions you gave were really, really soft. There's a late Sabozlai booking, which I thought was just bizarre.
Every cross in the box you couldn't wait to blow his whistle.
Well, it's interesting that, actually, because obviously we speak a lot about the Premier League and how that's refereeing and officiating now when it comes to corners and set pieces, because it tends to be just as a rugby in there, isn't it, most of the time now. But in Europe, it's not the same. So that difference, we've experienced it obviously this season, obviously the refereeing in Europe compared to domestically. So yeah, that's not uncommon, I think it's fair to say, how that sort of plays out. But
there was one where Van Dijk just jumps with his arms by his side and he heads the ball and he gives a free kick. It was just crazy.
When you mentioned that about them being petty, we normally praise the European referees, don't we? Champions League's always been good, but I think this season they have started to get a bit more petty, haven't they? And I've seen it across all games. I've seen fans from like Newcastle saying how bad they were last night against Barcelona as well. It's probably creeping into every single kind of league now, isn't it?
I think they're confused with the rules and everything. I think they don't know themselves. They don't know what to do. Blow your whistle or not. They wait for help, always off VAR. It's a mess, isn't it?
Yeah, and the VAR yesterday, they said that the Kanate goal was disallowed because he handled it, but it took 2 or 3 deflections before it went in the net.
As I say, that was just an absolute mess of an inside situation. I didn't really bemoan the decision too much, truthfully, because it wasn't an aesthetically pleasing goal, so it wasn't one I'm going to remember for long anyway.